Right, and that's what we do at Expressway. We try and get interesting speakers for you, and you know, the idea is to make sure that you gain some sort of information, apart from the network, which is fantastic, but get some information that you can actually walk out of here and be able to at least think about it, or think about ways that you may be able to improve your business. We certainly, our aim is certainly to try and add some value. You're taking your time to come here, and I think it's important that you make it, we make it worthwhile for you, and I hope you find it worthwhile. Thank you.
Can I just make a little suggestion?
There is an Expressway network LinkedIn group, which I actually went back into yesterday, and I noticed it's like 638 members of it now.
Right, I haven't looked at it for a
Yeah,
while.
so it's worth going into the Expressway LinkedIn group.
Excellent, okay, great. Thank you, Margaret. Right, our first speaker is Ramona Bullard. Ramona is going to tell us about the role of entrepreneurs program plays in helping product companies transform and grow. Piece of paper here. So Ramona is an industry experienced facilitator. The role comprises of supporting business by delivering the Australian Government's Entrepreneurs Program, Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources on the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane, and assisting eligible SME businesses, particularly manufacturers including food, agribusiness, to improve, innovate and grow. Supporting SMEs to work toward achieving their business aspirations. Can you please make Ramona welcome? Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. I think I need 3 arms. Like, I've got this pointer and I've got this. I'm joking.
Can I hold anything for you?
I'll work it out. I'm going to move this over here.
Yeah.
That can be the pedestal. And do it that way. And we might get that presentation started as well. So hi everyone. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for turning up. Friday afternoon, early afternoon. You could have been at a long lunch somewhere. So excellent for you to turn up, and thanks for inviting me, whoever invited me or jobbed me in, one or the other. I'm really happy to be here and see if anything that I go through in you know, my experiences and shared learning resonates with you. So we'll just wait for my presentation to come up. So I'm going to talk about, you can all hear me okay? Yes. Transforming and scaling a business. It's really challenging. I'll talk a little bit about myself very briefly because I want to focus on businesses, and you know, you're the core heroes in this whole you know, business growth and scaling affair. But transforming and scaling, even starting up a business, very challenging. It's a real it's a rocky road. There's highs, there's lows. It can be exhilarating, you know, and then you can end up upside down like this, and all of a sudden your pockets are emptied. That happens a few times in the journey. So, you know, I'm going to talk about a few case studies and how I've worked with a couple of businesses. Probably won't get through them all, and also the Entrepreneurs Program, so you know a little bit about how that might be able to help you and the Oz industry world. So let's see if this works. Okay, a little bit about me, because I don't want to be one of those stupid smart people, or smart stupid, whatever they're called, those that write the books and talk about business but they've never been in one. So I've been in a few, and I've had wins and had lows, pains and gains. So 20 years, 250 business engagements with the Entrepreneurs Program and in consulting. Oh, well, I haven't counted, about that. Growth facilitator for the Entrepreneurs Program with a portfolio of companies. Okay.
Just passed out.
That wasn't me, by the way. But I'm glad you liked it, whoever that was. So with the Entrepreneurs Program, that's a flagship program of the Department of Industry, which John introduced. Okay, so within that we have facilitators around the country that all have owned companies before and provided business advisory. So within that program, I manage a portfolio of companies. The total revenue of that is 231 million. Average revenue of each of those companies is around 10 million, with FTEs around 35. So a lot under that, of course, and a few over that, up to the 100 million as well. So EP is, what is EP? What is the Entrepreneurs Program? Essentially, I'm not going to go into the whole detail and flog government programs, because that's not why I'm here. But essentially what we do, which is what is important to you guys, is provide a roadmap service, a mentoring service if you like, put together a roadmap for businesses over 12 months. There's a grant for eligible businesses to help them with targeted projects, to help them improve, innovate and grow. And then we link them in with some fantastic connections. We've got a very rich network of connections and expertise, and some free stuff from technical advisors to digital advisors to innovation connections and research advisors. And some of those can include acquiring a STEM graduate, 30,000 towards a STEM graduate to further a company's R&D. So there's some good stuff there, but as needs basis and discussion. So I've been a company director for 4 companies. They've been either construction, non-for-profit or business advisory, and scaled up one of them to 10 million. That was in construction. Currently have another company in partnership with JCU that we've just launched. I'm a mentor with TAFE, Small Business Solutions, and have been doing that for 7 years. Okay, so that's a bit about me. So case studies, just an overview what we're going to talk about. I might need a gong, by the way, later on. There's a couple of things that we'll probably skip over, but I'm happy to send this slide deck out to you, because I've put together some nice resources which I think would be valuable. So we'll talk about a few case studies. Shared learning and knowledge is what it's about. I hope you find it of value. A little bit on the technology landscape, because we are in a digital transformation age and disruption is happening and will continue to happen at a faster rate. And then we'll have Q&A, and as I said, there's a few resources there. So 3 case studies. I've got Australian Expedition Vehicles, Grydale DC Proprietary Limited, and Watkin Steel, which I probably won't have time to go into, but I'm happy to talk about individually if you'd like. So first of all, Australian Expedition Vehicles. They're a professional engineering business in North Queensland, Townsville, and they're involved in vehicle manufacturing and modification, serious modification, so Land Cruisers with 8 wheels that do 2,500 kilometre range, turbo, extra turbo, you know, that sort of stuff, and probably a little bit more sturdy than most. So they do deal in defence and, you know, some of those industries. Mining and energy is another one. They're 100% Indigenous owned, and veteran workforce, 95% veteran workforce. This is where I'm juggling. Bear with me. So we'll talk about Australian Expedition Vehicles, 3 years and in 3 minutes basically. So although our engagements are 12 months, sometimes they might fall into another program, or we keep talking to them and helping them. So I've been engaged with this family business for 3 years now, and that continues, and that quite often happens. So I met Michael in 2019 at an event and said, hello, I'm from the government and we can help you, and he said, I'm not really interested. But then I developed a relationship with him, and the rest is history, as they say. So we'll talk about some of the challenges, opportunities and focus areas where the Entrepreneurs Program and where facilitators, well in this case me, were able to support him to grow his business and address some of the issues. So Michael's the type of guy, he's a very smart engineer, very smart board of family members on the board. board from all over the world. And I think his sister did lean manufacturing for, the US government, very high level skills. So he really wanted to push the boundaries and look at how to scale the business and address some of his systems problems, and look at how to grow the business. So what were some of his challenges when we first met? A small business transitioning and growing and scaling, very common theme of challenge. Funding growth, building a niche AM capability, manufacturing costs money, capital investment in machinery and equipment, and COVID slowed down a lot of the ports as well. Operational constraints and footprint capacity. So yeah, they were really tight on space, and that was going to become a major problem. Low margins, productivity, HR performance. So the opportunities which he was looking at developing, and we discussed, was new markets, extended markets in defence, New Zealand, UAE and UK, advanced manufacturing and testing capability. Regulations changed in Australia for vehicle modifications standards, meaning that if you had vehicle modifications to a certain level, they needed to go through this testing capability, testing process, requiring a robot, which there was only 3 in Australia. So that was another opportunity for him, along with some other manufacturing and government support. So focus areas, we had a look at his business plan. He had, he's got a great board with excellent expertise. They had a 5-year plan, but they'd achieved it in 3 years. So he kept telling me that, and I said, well, it's time to reset strategic direction. And we did that. Then there was an opportunity for sovereign industry capability grants. So we connected with other members in Oz Industry, and AEV was able to secure $1.2 million worth of funding for the Sovereign Industry Capability Program, and some Queensland government, made in Queensland type funding. So that was fantastic. That was a real win for him. But large grants can also have hairs on them as well, because they usually match funding, or there's some sort of funding there as well, and you have to come up with that early in the stage. So either way, he managed that risk and was able to restructure his finances, which was important, and fund the vehicle modification testing robot and a 5-axe seawater jet cutting machine. So that's all in place now and working beautifully, but the stress was significant as he was going through that and growing, as well as getting the right team in a regional location. Expanding to new premises and optimising his business management system. He had to integrate to an ISO 9000 system. That was fine because he's a quality auditor, I'm a quality auditor, so got through that pretty well. The hard part was getting it all into a electronic format and software solutions. So Aeroflow and a couple of other integrations. Typical engineer, he was trying to do it all himself. I said, this is going to take you forever because you're a perfectionist. So eventually he got it all integrated and working well through APIs and etc. And a KPI electronic board, which was brilliant for the staff. So fantastic areas that he was able to move forward in. So where are we now, and where are AEV up to? We still have regular check-ins bi-monthly, and that's really a bit of accountability for him and someone to talk to, because we're totally independent and we're a sound board, and they really appreciate that. The businesses really appreciate that. Organisational change management, getting at the front bench in the management team, that's a critical part of his growth at the moment. So where we can, with connections and so forth, we're helping with that. And to continue his value-based culture. He's got a very strong value-based culture about veterans and employing them, and that's continuing and going well. He's the winner of the Prime Minister's Award in Outstanding Veteran Recruitment. He won that award in January because of the amount of recruitment he's done. what's he achieved in this 3 years? 35% in quality improvement, 150% staff increase in 3 years, and 45% revenue increase, and $1.2 million worth of grants. So he is a good example of a small business going through some really difficult, you know, ups and downs, typical, and coming out of it at a new level. So let's just have a look now. I thought I'd show you so that it's not just me talking and you can get a feel for what they're doing. We'll have a look at some of the defence vehicles that he's recently completed for defence. Two troop carriers, and they were completed by Christmas. But yeah, have a look at AEV and what they're about. We'll just play that.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the cursor. Coming.
Just unmute. It's finished now.
I think I don't play it again.
We'll play it again. I think you'll appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just not coming through the speakers.
Oh, it's not going through the speakers.
5-speed manual or 6-speed auto, 153 kilowatts of power. APV, long range reconnaissance vehicles.
Okay. Well, that gives you a
0.5 litre turbo diesel V8, 2,500 kilometre.
Sounds like a beer ad.
It does, doesn't it? Well, it's North Queensland.
No, that's nothing to do with it. Oh, yes. Sorry. Might need sound on this one to see.
Of vehicle standard, Australian Design Rule 88. Testing is conducted using an SR60 orbit steering robot, ensuring that each steering input reaches a level of consistency not achievable by a human driver. Data is collected by an inertial measurement unit and GPS during the manoeuvre, which occurs at 80 kilometres per hour. In order to protect both test driver and vehicle, AEP has engineered bespoke outriggers to prevent rollover and performs all testing at a purpose-built vehicle testing facility. Legislative requirements mandate this level of testing for off-road passenger and light goods vehicles which have undergone modifications to GVM and ride height. AEP's engineers will perform vehicle testing, data collection, interpretation of results, and certify the modification of your vehicle. For further information on ESC testing, contact AEP and speak to one of our engineers.
Yeah, that's it. So thanks. Yeah, that gives you an idea. My husband said that's how I drive. So it gives you a feel for what they're about, and they're going from strength to strength. A very conservative approach. Just out of interest, we do get feedback from time to time, and from the customer perspective, this was Michael and his wife, their words. The Entrepreneurs Program EP has helped us to improve, innovate and grow. The engagement has been beneficial, coming at a time when we were at a threshold of transitioning from a small family business to something larger. So I think there's a bit in that. Technology. Thank you. Okay, so that's a little bit about AEV. The next case study is a company called Grydale DC. Not a machinery. I work with a lot of manufacturers, so sorry, they're a little bit focused in that direction. But Grydar was established in 2011 by Andrew Fanning, the CEO, and they're an OEM equipment manufacturer or machine manufacturer. A range of fixed, mobile and on-board dust collection and extraction systems. Industrial applications are there, you can imagine, tunnelling, etc. And they have an international patent. Their JMS series is considered one of the most efficient in the world, and they're exporting at the moment. So quite an interesting organisation to be part of, or part of their journey. So some of their challenges were very similar to, you know, a lot of businesses and also AEV. Once again, the transitioning from a smaller business, a little bit larger though, smaller business to scale and fund growth. You know, the business was reactive. They had a lot of opportunities because of their machinery was fairly unique and fairly top-end technology-wise. So they were getting pulled in all directions. So that clear strategic direction was lacking. Clunky waste in the system. They didn't have, you know, automated systems, and an ERP system was needed for them to critically grow. Opportunities, they had export markets in the UAE and UAS and US and Europe, and it was in infrastructure and mining. They had a pretty transformative approach to dust extraction basically, and worked on the Victorian tunnelling project as well as a few other significant ones. So their focus areas for the Entrepreneurs Program and how we worked with them on their journey was to help them improve their management systems, so that their business management systems, bring those together and under control. A strategic business plan, so they had direction and a unified effort, unified their staff, unified their leadership team. Very cathartic for their leadership team actually. Transform and adopt technology, they use Business Central as the platform. Oops. It's got a mind of its own. And we connected with them with one of my colleagues' Innovation Connections. So 50,000 match funding, a new R&D project and a STEM graduate. And they became a critical part of their innovation and research team. They're very focused on research. Another area we focused on was organisational development, helping them to install a leadership team to scale the business. So where are they now? They're 50 full-time employees, 25 to 50 million, let's say. Of course, more challenges. You know, that comes with growth, but essentially, you know, revenue has increased significantly, and they've gone from, they were about a $5 million business, around that, 5 years ago, and they're up in the mid 20 millions, let's say. So significant growth, and of course there was funding involved with that. So where are they now? What are they up to September and October? Still we do regular check-ins, still engaged after 3 years, another one. Another hanger-oner, and they're really delightful to work with. We revisited their strategic plan. We also have another specialist services in the Entrepreneurs Program called Design UPAT, User Purpose Aspirations Tenets, and that helps the leadership team to focus on their strategic, on their true north. Revenue increase. We've seen that, but importantly, efficiency increases of 30% in labour and cost. They've now got offices in Canada, USA and Europe, and that happened pretty quickly as soon as the borders opened. Yeah. There's some cool stuff there, but you can have a look at that, you know, in the slides if you want to. That big system across the top there, which is quite large, is from the City Rail Link, Auckland, New Zealand, and that's a large mobile dust extraction machine. This one here is from the Glencore crushing plant, and that's another tailor-made, designed crushing system. And they're improving these systems all the time. I won't go into Watkins Steel because we are running out of time, but essentially the facilitator, it wasn't me that worked with Watkins, it was about 2017, worked with them mainly in strategic planning. Des Watkins, very passionate about innovation when he took over from his father in 2005, I think it was. And as a result of his drive, the business model transformation was significant. And now Watkins Steel is no longer a steel fabricator and designer. They offer 3D scanning services and end-to-end digital manufacturing. And they're more into the sort of right into the servitization side of the manufacturing. They've been the only ones to be able to do that end-to-end. So they do a digital build in the beginning, so there's no more back to the drawing board. Does that sort of cover it? So they walk into the digital building, turn it around, have a look, da-da-da. I won't go into the smiley curve, but I'll send that out for you. That's a great indication of where the value is in the future with technology disruption. Okay, business barriers. So from your point of view, what do you think out of those case studies, what are the most common challenges? It's not rhetorical. People. People's a big one. Yeah.
Finding their true direction.
Finding their direction and understanding their purpose and direction and bringing people on that journey. Very good. Yeah. What's your number one barrier to growth, do you think, at the moment? You're probably at different stages with your businesses, but what's your number one barrier at the moment? Funding. Yeah. And you can't steal it. Anyone else? You feel you could be the barrier as well, sometimes? Mindsets? I know I can be. So yeah, it's interesting. Very common, sort of similar themes there with some of these businesses and with yourselves as well. So finding your why and your purpose is critical in the business, to understand where you're heading and why you're heading there. Finding your true north. As that's the golden circle developed by a fellow by the name of Simon Tannock, which I'm sure you've all heard of. If you haven't, it's in the resources. Fantastic. Buyers, customers, service clients, they tend to want to make an emotional connection with your brand, and to be able to do that, understanding why your business exists is a good way to make that connection. So customers don't buy what you do, how you do it, they buy why you do it. Some other little tools there I won't go into, but continuous improvement. Continually improving the business and bringing in expertise and talent when you need them. And sometimes it takes a while to get the right people. We're finding that a lot at the moment. Just some good advice, and it's not mine. It's different books and different experiences I've come across. Alan Miltz, the accountants in the room might be aware of Alan Miltz. He's been very successful in his cash flow story. I think about 500 banks across the world use his software. He's got 36,000 members or subscribers for his cash flow software. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king. We know that. And getting a really good cash flow forecast is important. Another one I came across recently is Hugh Williams, who's a VP for technology teams, or was, for Google, Apple and eBay. Now, one of his scale-up tips really resonated with me, having to scale up a construction company, and that is the 60-30-10% philosophy. And that is 60% of your team, especially your technical high-level team, focus them on delivering good quality product and service. 30% should be focused on maintaining systems, all the underpinning things that need to happen, and systems to keep that all going and drive success. That's boring. No one likes to do that, but it's so important. And the 10% is hedging against the competitors. leadership, innovation. So 10% is chaos, really. You know, it's that creative part of a business. Looking at new frontiers, looking at your market growth, having the edge and getting that creativity within the company. So I think that's brilliant, and I've really taken it on board with my new startup. I'll let you know if it works. Who moved my cheese? Spencer Johnson. People love that. The cheese always moves. So what's the business cycle? Your business life cycle, because it will mature eventually. So you've always got to be looking for new cheese or looking for new business and understanding your markets. 7 Habits, we know of that one. But it's not, you know, it's not pop business psychology, the 7 Habits. It's still very successful. 38 languages, millions of copies, you know, 2011. It's just one of those essential, you know, business books, I think. And Bill Clinton actually called Stephen Covey into Camp David to help him with his presidency using that philosophy. Maybe he was missing one habit. Sorry. Couldn't resist. And fish philosophy. Get your culture happening. Be there. Choose your attitude. Make their day. Play. Have fun. I won't go through this because I've run out of time. I've included some good stuff for you in the resources. I've already said that, but by 2030, this is from McKinsey, a very recent report, AI could deliver an additional economic output of around 13 trillion, which is about 1.2% GDP globally. So the bottom bullet point is get involved, take advantage of it, and 20 to 25% economic benefits. Global impacts in food, really interesting stuff, but we won't go there. But this is, because we don't have time, but out of the McKinsey Tech Trends Outlook for 2022, this is a really interesting graph. Along the top is the different types of technology, and along the side are the different industries, okay? And what you've got is, one of them is all black. So what the legend is minimal impact is grey, black impact is, highest impact on business or industry is black. So you've got one, can you see that line that's totally black? Guess what that is? AI. The next one is advanced connectivity. We really need to get better at that for everything else to happen. And sustainable consumption. All the net zero type stuff is really kicking in, ESG. So I thought that was really fascinating. Won't go into that, but if you look at those same couple, this is out of McKinsey as well, advanced connectivity, applied AI, I mean there's hundreds and hundreds of billions invested in that in 2021. That's it from me, and a bit of a broad brush and quick journey through a few case studies and some interesting resources for you, which hopefully resonate, and a whole lot more here, for you. So thank you very much for listening. Wish you all the best in business, and if I can help at all, feel free to talk to me while I'm here. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. A lot of information there, wasn't there? Good stuff. I mean, it goes to show when you are in business, quite often you're so much in business, you're not quite aware of those amazing resources that are available and the people you should be talking to, hence Expressway. And we see that all the time, Margaret, don't we, with businesses, particularly when you're at the stage where you've been bouncing off the floor for a number of years, and all of a sudden you say there must be a better way of doing things. There's so many resources, and all businesses, just about all businesses I talk to in my role, always say to me, God, I didn't know about that. And the information and awareness as where to go is the big secret. So thank you again. Fantastic presentation. Thank you. Right, on to the next one. Let's go. You set a high bar there.
I probably went over time.
You did. That's okay. It was interesting. I would have stopped you earlier otherwise. Our next speaker is Andrew Barton. Andrew, can you hear us?
Certainly can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, so I'll just introduce you and I'll give you the floor. Okay, Andrew was born and raised west of Longreach in Queensland. He studied electrical engineering, business, and has undertaken various engineering and IT-based roles. Upon graduation, he led the development of robotic vehicle design to detect cracks in large natural gas pipelines for the international gas pipeline community. Andrew then undertook several roles within Woolworths, with his final role being Infrastructure Solutions Manager. He then moved to Brisbane to work with Shell QGC, I imagine that would be Queensland Gas Company, I would say, where he held roles including Production Data Manager and Business Transformation Manager. Andrew returned to Longreach to drive the setup and emergence of OPS Australia. Over to you, Andrew. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Now let me just transfer this slideshow. How are we going? Can you, hold on. I need to. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Terrific. First of all, I just want to call out, thank Tristan for the invite, and very much appreciated the time we've spent with Tristan over the previous weeks and months. So yeah, thank you, Tristan. So yeah, we're from OPS Australia. A little bit about. How do we get this to? There we go. A little bit. So what does OPS do? So we do water monitoring. We do acting. So we put modules on top of tanks, and we put antennas up, and we provide graphs of data for people. So that's in essence what OPS does. OPS is an ag tech and data analytics company. We're based in Longreach in Queensland. We offer innovative technical solutions for rural Australia. We're currently targeting Queensland as a market, but we're starting to warm up New South Wales on our way towards expanding to a national market. We're currently selling 8 products, but we have 35 products in our portfolio to deliver. We've got an active ongoing product development program, and we're specifically one of our charters is to develop economic benefit for Western Queensland. As one of the councillors said a couple of months ago, he said it's been quite a while since a new industry, a new activity like this has started up in Western Queensland. Whereas OPS has actually taken quite a different perspective. There are companies out there that do water monitoring, and there are companies out there that do point solutions, where our premise, our approach is that we can monitor anything on a property that makes sense. We can control anything on a property that makes sense. Then what we do is we integrate those two functions together to create smart ag tech solutions. So a classic example would be, if the tank is full, turn the pump off. If the tank half full, turn the pump on. And the tank and the pump can be 40 kilometres apart. So, and what we're finding is that this sort of functionality, this sort of solution is really missing in the Australian ag tech solution. None of the other major players within the ag tech vendors are offering this sort of solution. What we did is we took this premise, we established this premise right from the start, and it's been very, very well received by the market. just talking a little bit about what we do, even though we have the 35 products, these are some of the products we do. We can monitor water levels in tanks. We can monitor water levels in turkey nest. Now, turkey nest is a dam that is above ground level. We can monitor water over road, say where a road crossing might be cut with water. So you might have, say, people, that have a 3-hour journey back to town or something like that, and there might be 3 main road crossings. We can actually monitor if that road crossing is going to be cut by water and plot as a graph. We can monitor water pressure, we can monitor rainfall, we can do soil moisture, we can do cool room temperatures, we can operate pumps, either solar or electric, we can control electrical devices, we can monitor battery voltages. We can do all of these sorts of things in an integrated manner. As a little bit of an indication in terms of our size, our main database of all of those water level measurements or battery voltage measurements, we've now got over 2.8 million data readings. So that is it's a bit of an indication of how of the scale of OPS and how we're established. In terms of geographical reach, we're up north of Hughenden, we're out to the coast, and we're now moving down into northern New South Wales. So in terms of a geographical spread, we're actually covering a good part of Australian agriculture. I want to talk about the trigger for OPS Australia, because at the time I was working in Brisbane at Shell with QGC. I was perfectly happy in my role there. Now, Keith and I grew up together. Keith stayed out here at Longreach. I moved away to do electrical engineering, etc. Keith purchased 1,000 sheep back in 2016. Unfortunately, the wild dogs got in and attacked his sheep, and he didn't have many sheep left. It's a bit of an understatement, but Keith was not a happy chap. So Keith just got on the phone and he called me, and I was down in Brisbane at the time. I was filling the car up, and he said, "Andrew, can we build a system that would detect wild dogs and would shoot them?" And I'm thinking, there's probably some international rule about creating weapons that kill. So I said, "Keith, how about we build a system that would detect wild dogs and scare them away?" And he said, "Yep, that's great, let's do that." And that was the trigger that formed OPS. So OPS it's a fusion of my product development past with outback rural Australian culture. And it was that trigger back in 2016 that really started the journey. So what I'm saying is that OPS wasn't created out of a blank sheet and an idea, what could we do? It was generated and created out of a real need. And as a business, it was a real combination of my background and my willingness to come home with the Australian culture. A little bit about myself. As I grew up in Longreach, our family lived here for almost 100 years. As I say, I grew up with dust on my boots, went off to do electrical engineering. The first phase of my career was developing these robotic pipeline devices that detect cracks in gas transformation, in gas pipelines. So then I worked for Woolworths, worked with Shell, and this current phase of my career is that I've actually moved back to Longreach to establish this business. A little bit of a timeline. So 2016 was the call. 2016, 2017 we were doing product development. And this is product development with masking tape and a little bit of, a wish and prayer, but we were still developing products and proving concepts. But one of the things we actually did is we actually established a steering committee of leading graziers of primary producers out here in Longreach. And what we do is we get together with that steering committee every 6 months. So each of those steercom meetings is named after an animal. So there was anteater, bandicoot, cockatoo, drop bear, emu, falcon, kangaroo's the next one. But these steering committee meetings are really interesting because we actually get a group of primary producers together with the OPS development team, and they prioritise the products, and they give us feedback and stuff like that. And it's been a really valuable function. and but we've had that since 2017. That steering committee also fiercely evangelised for us. They're off talking about OPS and what we're doing. 2017, 2018, we were developing products out of a homestead. This is a wooden homestead an hour west of Longreach. It didn't have air conditioning. It had satellite internet. And I remember sometimes in the heat of summer, my laptop would close down because it was too hot. So I'd have to take my laptop, I'd go put it in the fridge for half an hour just so it can cool down so that I could keep my laptop going. And the interesting thing with internet satellite is that when a storm comes over, it gets cloudy, the internet doesn't work. But I'm sort of just sharing that as they were the origins of OPS, but that's where our product started. 2019, that's where we reset our focus, and that's where we created OPS Australia, and that's where we restarted our product development. That's where we put all the products that we developed to date really aside, and we started again. Basically what we did in 2019, we started the run of what we're producing at the moment. In 2020, we implemented commercial solutions. We launched our water monitoring product, and we really pushed our product development. In 2021, in 2021, we actually started radio advertising, which was an interesting step up for us. 2022, we were successful with an Ignite grant. And another major step here is that we moved into a large facility in Longreach. It's a large building, it's partly air-conditioned offices and it's partly warehouse with concrete floors. So we actually had the space to increase the number of spares. We actually had the space to actually develop products. We could test products. We had the space to do stuff, which we didn't have when we were developing our initial products back in that homestead back at Campsie. The other great thing of having that facility in Longreach is it's just a short walk to the bakery. So there's some upsides of Longreach. And recently, in the beginning of 2022, we launched our second main product, which is our remote control devices. So so that's an indication of our timeline. So you could really see the left half of it was sort of like forming and really, without strong direction. And the second half of this timeline, from 2019 onwards, with a strong direction and really building the company. Now, what I want to do now, we're all friends here, right? So what I want to be able to do here today is share some stuff that I wouldn't normally share. I want to share some stuff here that I would find of value if I was attending one of these functions. And because I think there's some value in that. Talking about our financials, we have no external debt. We have no debt repayments. We've got a large installed base out there. We've developed our products, we've developed our business, and we have no external debt. What we've done is we've funded our product and business development from trading income and some shareholder loans. So what we've done is we've managed.
Stick it in the fridge. The cloud's got all.
Cyber security. The Russians are coming.
He's very interesting, isn't he?
No.
Yeah, a lot of
Contact him,
there's a lot of connection there.
Yeah, I think so. And
Looks
then
like
yeah,
there might be a storm hit. He did say when storms hit, he loses connection. Yeah. Ah. Oh, good. Okay, great.
Well, they're not on
No, no.
in Queensland.
Recording in progress.
So the products that we deliver aren't just from OPS. We've got a suite of other companies that work together to develop these products. Like there's a company called Senycia that design and develop all our metal products, like our masks or the stainless steel enclosures or the widgets that go on the back of the Dumlars and stuff like that. Now, our relationship with Senycia is not, I want you to do this for us. We will do they understand what we're trying to do, and they voluntarily improve the product or do things or work with the other parties to actually improve the product. So what I'm saying is that we have this mature ecosystem out here of these group of companies working together to produce these products. There's MBS Mercury Business Solutions, and they've developed some of our electronic circuit boards. They've also helped out with different areas of the technology. And so what I'm saying is that we have a group of companies here that are working together now to actually produce these products. Another factor of our product development is that all our product development, all the product design, all the assembly, all of the support happens in Western Queensland. The circuit boards are made out here, the software is developed out here, our product integration happens out here. And my professional peers on the coast are saying, Andrew, you're moving out to Longreach to start up this technical company. Are you crazy? You mean? But what we've done is we've managed to find the people with the necessary skills out here. Now, sometimes these people have come from interesting areas, but it's interesting that we've actually found the people to develop, support, and this industry with technical products. I want to talk about our market. We're very much immersed in our target market. Our two main competitors, one is based in the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Sydney, the other one's down in the centre of Melbourne. We're the only major agtech vendor in Australia that's actually based in the bush, and it's really interesting. Beef Week in May 2021 in Rockhampton, I think there were 30-something agtech vendors there. Now in Barcaldine in Westech in September 2021. Now Westech is Queensland and Northern Territory's major agricultural event, and it goes for 3 days and it's on every 3 years. OPS was the only agtech vendor in Barcaldine. There is some divide between the coast and the outback, between the bush. Now, it's only a 6-hour drive between Barcaldine and Rockhampton, or it's a single flight, but as an observation, we were the only agtech vendor at Westech. So it's sort of like we're working in a market where our peers are based on the coast. It's really interesting. Another factor of our market is that we've got a growing list of customers who are actively telling us that they want to invest in our business. So that we have a source of investment income available to us. Our challenge is we haven't come up with the right model. We haven't worked out what's the right model to do that. But that's the stuff to do with our market. In terms of marketing, we're dominating in our target market, which is Queensland at the moment, in social media. We're by far the fastest growing in terms of agtech vendors nationally within social media. We use our own content rather than stock images. So we have a very wholesome, very on the ground sort of approach. We produce our own radio ads. We've got a guy out here that's 90 minutes west of Longreach. He does the voiceovers. So we have a very authentic approach to marketing. And we're currently producing our first TV ad for national rural airing. What could go wrong? It's quite interesting. It's like sometimes you need to ground yourself and say, well, have we taken on a bit much here? But let's see how we go. But what I'm saying here with our marketing is that we've taken a very authentic rural-based approach to marketing. In terms of our brand, we're now nationally #1 for Google searches for the last 12 months for all Australian-based agtech vendors, and that to me is a significant result. So if you go to the Google Trends website, you line up all the Australian agtech vendors, we're now #1. There's more people search for OPS Australia than any of our competitors. So in terms of our brand, something is happening. We're actually cutting through with our brand nicely. We've got excellent support from all tiers of government, from federal to the state government, and certainly to the local councils out here. And another thing that we've done is that we've established our National Operations Centre. This is the technical heart of our business out here in Longreach. In terms of business growth, we're growing at 10 to 15% a month, but I must say that that's not linear. That doesn't happen every month, but if you average it out, that's what we're achieving. We're working towards online national sales, so we'll open our online stall maybe later in the year or maybe early next year. But to do that, what we need is we need our documentation and our product installation notes, etc., to be good enough. So we're really working on what we need to do to achieve online sales. And when we achieve those online sales, we will assemble the orders, assemble the products, and we will dispatch them from Longreach. So we will retain our base in Longreach and service the national market. We're exploring other sales channels, other channels like agricultural agents or other businesses that sell complementary products. So we're working through that as well. And this is a lot of the stuff that and no surprises that this is the sort of stuff that Tristan and I spoke about, is how do we sort of punch up the business. One of the interesting things here is that we're really pioneering. We're very aware that we don't have a business role model to which to compare against. If we were, say, a coffee shop, we would have many other coffee shops in the area that we could go and look at and see what they've done, and then use what they're doing to help us with our business model. We're very aware that we are pioneering. There's not another company in Australia, there's not another agtech vendor in Australia that we're emulating or wanting to be like. And we're sort of finding ourselves, out in this interesting area where, anyway, I'm just saying we're pioneering, so it's an interesting position to be in. We've got a product that we're selling to primary producers. We're very aware that there are commercial businesses and local government or local councils that also need water monitoring. They also need the remote control. They also need the integrated systems. But what we're finding is that these commercial organisations and local government and the local councils don't want to purchase a product that is designed for primary producers. For some reason, there's a bit of a reticence there. So one of the things we're actively doing at the moment, and again, this is one of the things we're sharing because we're all friends here today, but we're actually building a second tier of product. Now, the second tier of product will reuse a lot of the technology that we've used on our primary producers product, but we will rebadge it. The product will have extra robustness and extra functionality, but we're going to just take the technology of our core product, develop a second tier of product, and we will deliver that at a higher price point. And all of that is according to the expectation of this different group of customers. So that's something we're working on there. So these are two examples of we've got our core business, which we're growing, but these are other branches to our core business that is part of the OPS family, if you make sense. If that makes sense. Just mention lightly that we have developed a solution that we're about to pilot, and I won't get into details, but we're expecting this to be a transformational solution for the Australian game meat industry. And as I said, we're just ready to pilot there on that one. I've just noticed the typo. Key inflection points. One of the inflection points back in the beginning was, how should we fund this venture? We had products, we had some early customers, but what we've managed to do is, as I said, we've been able to fund the business with income. So that was a historical inflection point. Another inflection point was, okay, we're in Western Queensland where we have customers, we know there's a market in Western Queensland, but it was such an unusual thing to actually establish a technical business in Western Queensland. So the inflection point here was, can we actually do this in Western Queensland? But then when we looked into it, once we took this unusual approach, there's actually some significant upside in Western Queensland. One is rents are cheap. Resources, once you find the right resources, are cheaper than resources on the coast. And there's actually some strong upsides of establishing a technical organisation in Western Queensland. But as an inflection point, it was interesting. Like, you know, should we even try this, or should we look at something else? Another inflection point, which really held us back for a little while, was, do we have the confidence to target a national market? You know, can we really do this? And I strongly credit, there's a fellow out here called Morgan, and he just said, Andrew and Keith, he said, look, go take it to the next step it up, because you've developed a capability, and you yourself are impeding the development of the business. And so we have, and he's actually had that conversation with us a couple of times, and it was quite interesting that it took an external person outside the business to say, give it a go. You mean, what could go wrong? And that's what we've been doing. And it's interesting. And the other one is business role models. I'm just repeating myself here, but we really didn't have another type of business that we could copy. It's not as though we can sort of go, right, well, we want to be like that business and let's do that. And there are 6 other businesses like what we want to do within Australia. We've really had to develop the business model and develop the confidence to drive that business model ourselves. In terms of some transformations, and these transformations have actually taken many guises now. When we ran the business and when we were developing products in that outback homestead, we were content and we were secure. To actually step it up and step out of that homestead was quite a significant transformation. In many ways, it was like staying in town rather than being an hour out of town. It was being close to the other vendors within our ag tech industry. So when I was at the homestead and it was an hour to drive from the homestead into Longreach, I would plan a day or maybe 2 days in town where I'd go and see this person, this person, this person. But when you're actually in town, you can actually go and see them 3 times in the same day. So that transformation from that homestead to Longreach was significant, and that was interesting. And now I find I'm finding it harder to actually to get time to actually go back out to the homestead. Another interesting transformation was managing remote work. Now, for instance, this morning we were packing up for an installation that we're going to do, and that installation is north of Hughenden. So I'll drive on Sunday, and it's about a 6-hour drive from us to the to where the client is. Now, given that it's a 6-hour drive, and we're going to be driving out into a remote location, we need to make sure that we take everything with us, and we need to be able to work effectively in a remote location. Now, at the same time, we might have another crew of people, 4 hours west, or it's just. So what I'm saying is managing that remote work and making sure that everybody's safe, everybody's looked after, over a large geographical area was quite a transformation. The next one is similar to that, but is how do we manage our business remotely? So when say I'm out on the road for 4 days, and I'll be in remote areas and driving around Queensland and rural Australia, when people contact us, they still expect a reply to the email. They still expect to be able to sort of answer on the phone. So what I'm saying here is keeping up the business front, being able to respond to customers and new inquiries, even though we're working through a remote part of Australia. That was another challenge.
Recording in progress.
That was fantastic.
We'd lost connection there for a little while, Tristan and Andrew. And
which through which bits?
Oh, only recent, the last 2 or 3 minutes. We lost connection.
Did you see the other ventures?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Did you see the key inflection points?
Yes. The infection one.
The infection points. Yes.
And there was the digital and organisational transformation.
Yep. I think we're just about saw it all. We're just towards the end of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Look, it was an amazing story and full of entrepreneurship, and certainly strong focus on purpose. Well, absolutely. Give you a clap. Thank you. All right, let's moving on now to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Simon Tannock. Simon is a co-founder and director of AlgaEnviro, I hope I'm pronouncing this properly, with a master's degree in biotechnology of diatom algae cultivation and a PhD in wastewater treatment. Simon is well versed in algae and wastewater processes. AlgaEnviro manufactures several products that work together to change water quality from poor to very high. The technology reduces nutrient levels and increases biodiversity within the water and the surrounding environment. Can you please make welcome Dr. Simon Tannock, please? Give a clap.
Hi everyone. Hopefully you can see me. I'll just switch over and share my screen now so that hopefully you see my presentation there.
Yep.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to present. Thanks Tristan for the invite. So yeah, as was read out there in the intro, our focus is on water quality, and like a lot of people who sort of don't work for themselves or don't run their own business, you know, they often think that we just, you know, do things like sit by the water, and as in this photo, and everything's pretty relaxed and easy. And of course, that's never the case, but it is the case that I'm a co-founder, and my wife is the other founder of the company, and certainly without her input and her EQ and business acumen, this person being me, who's the technical and science part of it, you know, we wouldn't have had the success that we've had without you know, us being a very good team. So we work in the full range of water, from wastewater, stormwater, drinking water, storages, aquaculture, and, you know, garden aesthetic type recreational ponds as well. So the technology itself, I'm just going to run through a few examples before we go into what the technology actually does. But this is a wastewater treatment and effluent storage site where they had very bad blue-green algal bloom initially. We were not only able to bring that under control, but they were previously, as is quite common in a lot of water management scenarios or water treatment scenarios, running 2 aerators to try and aerate the water, which a lot of people believe if you aerate the water, the algae go away, which isn't really true. But once they saw that the treatment was working, they turned one of the aerators off, and it was still looking great. So they turned the second aerator off, and it continued to look great. So they've almost entirely left them off now, and the power savings that they're now making by not running these aerators is greater than the cost of the product that they're using in this. So this is a 1 hectare lagoon site, and they use about 1.2 litres per week. So it's a very concentrated product, and doesn't need a lot to make a big change. As I said, we also work in raw water storages where blue-green algae is very regularly an issue in a lot of raw water and drinking water storages. They cause taste and odour problems, and also toxic algal blooms. You may be familiar with some of the toxic blooms that occur in the Murray-Darling river system, and those big fish kills that occurred a couple of years ago were mainly driven by blue-green algae blooms dying off and then causing the fish kills. And so it's very important to keep the water quality up to ensure that the treatment process goes well from a filtration and operational point of view, but also from the point of view of keeping toxins away and these taste and odour issues, which won't necessarily harm anyone, but it doesn't make the drinking water pleasant at all. In aquaculture, we can supply for nutrient management. So all algae blooms and weed problems in general occur because of too much nutrient. So you get more nitrogen and more phosphorus in the water, and either weeds or algae will grow. And in the case of this site, there was duckweed growing on the top, and that affects the ability for the air and the oxygen to exchange within the water body. And when these types of weeds die, they will rot at the bottom and release the nutrients, and then either come back or some other problem weed can get started. Similarly, in recreational ponds, things like this weed, which is called a zola, just basically stops it being very attractive, so it takes the aesthetic effect as well. We've also done work with utilities and councils in wetland systems to improve water quality. The top one is an untreated section of the wetland, and the bottom section is treated. And you can see water clarity is better, there's fewer weeds within the system, and there's also an increase in dissolved oxygen, and you can see the air bubbles coming off in both, but there's more air bubbles coming off in the bottom one, and it also helps to improve with biodiversity. More recent research has sort of highlighted to us the fact that we can also work on within soils and improving productivity. One of our clients contacted us and said that since they've been using us, their soils had been improving. They've been seeing degradation in soil from irrigating wastewater effluent for 25 years, and effluent is known to degrade soil quality. And in the 3 years they've been using us, he said, like a hockey stick, we can see the improvements. So we started working with the University of Sunshine Coast and got a student to run a small trial where we used just standard fertilizer treatments as the control plants, or we used our product, which is called diatomics, to basically grow up some diatom algae and then irrigate that onto the plants. And there was an 83% increase in the productivity of the radishes in this trial. And we're continuing on from that work to see how else we can improve soil quality, because that's one of the key factors of carbon content, moisture retention, the ability of the soil to stay together rather than to blow away as dust. So the biocrusts and things like that are all sort of turning up as other benefits of using this as a treatment. So how we do this is we use targeted micronutrient addition. So just in the same way that, we can become iron deficient if we don't, eat a healthy diet, or you can have calcium or magnesium deficiencies that cause problems. In the water, you can have too much nitrogen and too much phosphorus, which allows some weeds and algae to grow, but not others. And our focus is on growing diatom algae, and I'll explain what they are in a couple of slides, but they're probably what you might say are more susceptible to having the right balance of micronutrients, and that's what my master's degree was on how to grow diatom algae in very large amounts. So I put my thinking cap on with the awareness of the issues that were being occurring in open water bodies and wastewater treatment and agriculture and things like that. And we were able to create a formulation where we take silica and attach these micronutrients to the silica, so that when it's in the water as a liquid, the only types of algae that can get onto it and start using these micronutrients are the diatoms. And so diatoms, as a type of algae, they occur through the soils, oceans, and freshwater systems as well. And one of the unique things about them is they use silica to form these shells, as you can see in this picture here. So this is actually their cell walls, and it's almost like their skeleton, which is made of silica or glass. And so they're quite unique in that. So because we stuck all the micronutrients to the silica, these diatoms are the only ones that are going looking for the silica, and when they find it, they discover they can also get access to this wonderful supply of micronutrients that they previously were running out of. And so diatoms are I guess the key type of algae that you want to target, because they're also one of the major primary producers within water. What I mean by primary producers is just like for sheep and cattle farmers, grass is the primary producer that gives the food to the sheep and the cattle. Diatoms as an algae or a plant are the primary producer in freshwater systems and oceans, where the diatoms grow, then the zooplankton eat them, then the fish larvae eat them, and some other bigger fish will eat them, or things like that. So you move all the way up through the food chain. So diatoms in this picture are the very bottom right-hand side, and everything's eating them and moving up and up and up. So you're accruing those nutrients into the food web and producing all sorts of larger and larger animals. And in freshwater systems, you go not only through fish, but insect larvae. There's lots of insect larvae like dragonflies and caddis flies and things like that all have their larvae stage in the water, and they're all eating these sorts of things, and then they hatch, and dragonflies hatch and fly around, and birds will grab fish, and And so it's a whole part of the ecosystem of moving nutrients around into the system. So we started off with just one product being called diatomics. We were very, very simple in our naming, that it was a mix for diatoms, so we just jammed those two words together. And that was the only product that we had initially. Once we had a couple of trials underway, that very first image that I showed you with the very green, nasty looking pond with their aerator, we got that looking great, and they said, you know, we really like the product, it's clearly very good, but we have to go down, you know, regularly and dose it, and that takes up time and it's a bit of a pain, so we're not so sure. And I piped up in the meeting and said, oh, we've got a automated dosing unit, so, you know, there's, oh, well, give us a quote for that then. I said, sure. And we got out of the meeting, and my wife gave me the sideways look and said, we have a dosing unit? And I said, well, we will by Monday. And it was just that immediate, we have to do this, because, you know, now we know there's a customer need for not just the product but something else. We'll just have to figure out how we do that. And so we figured out about what we think it would cost and gave them a quote, and they bought one, and then we had to design it and design the coding and the circuit boards and all that sort of thing. So that was just a new product and a new journey. And the other thing that we got asked about was, as more and more people heard about us or saw the website, they would say, oh, you know, I've got a garden pond that's 2 meters in size. Can we buy some? And as I explained before, that 1 hectare site, which is quite rich in nutrients, being wastewater, uses 1 litre. So a garden pond that's 2 square metres in size, we thought, we can't really tell them to add 2 drops, you know, per week, which is what they would require, literally 2 drops from, you know, from the end of from a teaspoon, not the whole teaspoon's worth. So rather than try and explain that, we decided we'd better make a garden pond mix, which is dilute, but it makes it easier to use. So we made a garden pond mix, and that's been going very well. And then we also then identified that in the water chemistry that some sites don't have as much silica in the water as is needed. And so I put my thinking cap on and came up with the next product, which we call Diatomics IV. And the naming of that was, again, comes from science and geekness, because the last 3 litres of that is XIV, which is Roman numerals for 14. And because the product contains more silica, and silica's elemental number is 14, that's a little scientific geek fest joke that, you know, some of us enjoy and other people just yawn at it. I can't see your faces, I have no idea which way that's going. But anyway, and our last product in this range is called Solution. It is also an extra strength silica only supplement. And again, silica's symbol is Si, so that's why it's called Solution, because it's the silica solution to your problems. And we also make the dosing machines and what we call our biofilm habitat, floating habitat, as well as another product. But we won't go into those because that's a bit more, there's more to it than that. But for our journey, like a lot of businesses, we started in the kitchen doing some R&D, you know, creating a range of mixes and recipes and working out which ones would do what, and getting pHs right and dosing rates right and all that sort of thing. And then once we were ready to start selling, we were making it in the garage, and then hand applying labels to the bottles. And I went and jumped on YouTube and taught myself HTML and CSS to learn how to build a website. So the first website came up and we did that. And then we moved on to WordPress, and this image is today's website image because our internet service provider is down. So rather than go and look for another image of our website, I thought I'm sure many of you have been through it where your day is going well and then something from left field comes in and just shoots you down and goes, don't forget that, you know, there's all these other problems that you need to deal with, not just running your business. We'll throw other things at you as well. So right now we can't be found on the internet, which is a wonderful thing. The other thing, obviously, on our journey is you just go out and speak to anyone who'll listen, because you need to get the information out, and explain to people what it is that we do, and some of them will get it, and some of them will hope that you have another beer and move on to somebody else. So it's just one of those things. And then we just, obviously try and keep growing our business and improving water bodies and our business generally. Obviously the website helps and LinkedIn helps, but word of mouth is one of our probably our best methods of getting out there. And this photo is again just another R&D one where we're building floating dosing units. So the dosing units on the right hand side in grey there, sitting on a floating platform, but I needed to make sure that it would all balance and float in the right way. So the best way to do it is get it onto a water body and do it. And the nearest water body at the time where we were living was a inflatable pool, just to make sure that it was all positioned well. So again, this is R&D at its best. In regards to our key moments of success, the moments we thought were going to be massive were when the Queensland government held their Myriad Innovation Festival, and I knew a couple of the organisers and told them what we do, and we were able to get one of my friends who works in algae in NASA as part of the growing algae in outer space would be useful for producing oxygen for places that need to live on other planets, and this is what my friend Jonathan does. And so we got to do a innovation thing on how we could also try and improve living on planet Earth. But that went well, and the Minister of Innovation did a press release specifically about our company, AlgaEnviro, to say how innovative we were, and we thought that was pretty outstanding. And then we won a Corporate Sustainability Award at a algae conference in Paris, and we thought between those two, in the space of a couple of years, that would get us some real attention, and this would get us going places, and none of that's true. So our key moments to keep our business growing is just business as usual, just turning up every day and doing what you do well and making sure that you improve on it. Lasting for more than 5 years in business is a good way to increase growth, because when people go, oh, I've heard about them, or are they still around? That's amazing. And next thing you know, they go, it obviously works because they haven't gone bust yet. So that's a very useful thing. And I guess because one of the things we've had thrown at us a few times is the label of snake oil, because when you tell somebody you're solving a 1 hectare problem with 1 litre of product a week, some of your potential clients may think that you're snake oil. And one of our very first clients told me, we've been with them for 7 or 8 years, and they told me a while ago that they actually thought we were absolute snake oil, but I seemed to know what I was talking about, so they'd give us a go. And I went to a conference that they were presenting about our product, and he said, this is the best and cheapest snake oil we buy, and explained that, that whole journey for them, that they just thought there's no way that 1 litre is going to make a difference. But, after 12 weeks of treatment, for the first time in 5 years, they had birds back feeding in their water that had previously been so toxic that nothing would go near it. And in 12 weeks, we turned it right around, and now it was just working wonderfully for them, and they were really improving the quality of their water. From the point of view of who's helped us and who hasn't, we've had the swanky marketer who came along and said, you need social media is what you need, and this is what you need to do, and it just didn't happen. There's no value. I mean, I guess because we work in drinking water and wastewater, we should have stuck to our guns rather than believe how important social is, because nobody searches on how do I make my wastewater treatment plant run better on Facebook or Twitter. So that was a journey in frustration. We had a priming grant which allowed us to travel internationally to talk to new clients or potential clients in new markets. The R&D tax incentive is absolutely essential to what we're doing, because we do spend a lot of money on research, both in our current space but also in the soil space. And then the things like the Digital Solutions Program and along with Business Station and Tristan, that's helped us sort of have somebody else step back from us and talk to us about what we do, and what's useful and where we're going. Organisationally, I think we haven't really changed too much as an organisation from where we started to where we're heading. We've obviously got better equipment. We're not operating out of a garage and you know, a small 100 litre batch tank anymore. So we've got more toys to play with, although sometimes they cause headaches. And in scaling and growth, we figure out when we buy a new piece of equipment, you know, what it is that we need and how big and how far we can push that as to whether it's the right investment for us. So we make sure that we're doing our best to stay on improvements at the very, you know, minimum end of our scalability, so we can go a lot larger when we need to. And from a digital point of view, obviously we outsource the website and that sort of stuff. I'm not on WordPress or HTML anymore. And we get others to do the online shop for our garden products and website stuff. I still use LinkedIn a lot and need to do it more, but we're not really, I think we still have a Twitter account, but we just don't use it. And then because our business is so word of mouth, because a lot of the industry, particularly wastewater, a lot of them know each other or get together in the conferences, and they, you know, say, oh mate, you had that issue, what did you do? And they go, oh, you've got to talk to them. And we get that a lot. We have one client rang up and said, I've got a blue-green algae problem. And I said, oh, how did you hear about us? And he said, I've spoken to Queensland Health, the Department of Environment and Heritage Protection, and SEQ Water, and they all told us to come and talk to you. And I didn't even know Queensland Health knew about it. So, you know, it just shows that you can be doing something that's of real value in that space, and have people pop up without even, you know, having had to have the chat, which is really nice. We're not planning on increasing that social media. We certainly need to improve our SEO just to be found more easily. But because we are unique in what we do, there's nobody else doing what we do with this technology in the way that we do it. So, you know, I guess if people have a few of the keywords and know what they're doing, you're going to find us. Annoyingly, there is another product over in America called Diatomics, but it's quite different. But they've come across the same name. And then from development of other things, we're working on some field monitoring systems, because if we can understand what's happening in the water and get the dosage units to respond more quickly, then that certainly would have some benefit for our clients. And Andrew, that might be a conversation you and I need to have, as well as, you know, water quality in turkeys' nests. But yeah, that's been our journey and what we've done. So thanks very much for your time, and look forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Simon. Very interesting, very revealing, and fascinating story of success there. Thank you very much. So now it's time for a Q&A. We've got a bit of time there, and we'll start with people on Zoom. If you could go first, please. If you've got any questions for Ramona, for Andrew or Simon, go for it.
Yeah, I guess I've got a question, and yeah, because I kind of obviously you're both participants of the Digital Solutions Program, and I came into contact with you around the same kind of time. I was just wondering, do you guys see any overlap in what you guys are doing in terms of markets and product ranges and services? Do you see any collaborative potential?
I do, definitely.
So the same is yes. I think a follow-up action is to have a chat.
Yeah, definitely. We don't do enough remote monitoring stuff, which I think is something that, you know, I do want to add to, particularly the doser and the floating doser. But equally, there are plenty of water quality issues and water management issues, you know, in anywhere, but farming is one. So And if we can add value to that, then I think that would be a really good conversation for us to have.
Very good.
Good. Anybody else on Zoom? We haven't got too many left, I don't think.
We've got Carl.
Hi. Yeah, I just want a quick question to Simon. Hi, how you going, Simon?
Hi.
I'm looking at how startups legitimize their venture, and you talked about the struggle of getting, your technology sort of supported. I guess there was some skeptical in the stakeholders. What kind of strategies do you think you used to get around that?
I probably didn't really use any strategy because I wasn't aware of the skepticism. Like I would go. I probably have to come very clean here that I am in no way a salesman, and I have an idea of where I want the business to go. But as I said, Lily is an essential part of that in the business, and it was only when I had that conversation with the client, and they said, you walked out of that meeting, and he said, and I just went snake oil, absolute snake oil, never worked. And a couple of the others said, yeah, but he's certainly not a salesman. He didn't try and get a purchase order out of us. He just came and told us what the product would do. And then they said, yeah, and he knows his stuff. We asked him some tricky questions. He either gave the answer or he just said, I honestly don't know. So he's, we can see that he's a genuine guy. And then the last thing that got them there, I think, was the fact that our price point is not ridiculous. And they went, we could do a first trial for $5,000, and how many trials do we ever get over the line at $5,000? Why wouldn't we do it? And they spent $15,000 monitoring it to see if the $5,000 worth of product did the job. And after 12 weeks, it was just a hands down there for them. They just like, we need to buy some more of your magic juice. And we went, okay, cool. And so I would just have those conversations, and that's how the business would grow.
Yep, great. No, that's good. Good. I'll follow up a few questions with you later.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Anybody else? Can I ask the floor? Is there anyone on the floor here who would like to ask a question?
Oh, simple one for Andrew. Have you been on landline yet? Because I think it would be a fantastic, that would be a fantastic promotion, wouldn't it?
We've been on twice, but not as a feature story. You would have, there was a story several years ago to do with exclusion fences, wild dog fences.
Yeah.
And we were part of that. And then there's another thing of, we had a small, on 2 episodes we've had a small part, but we haven't been like the lead story, if that makes sense.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for an amazing afternoon of presentation. Ramona, thank you. Andrew, thank you. And Simon, big thank you. And you've made us all much more informed and wiser, hopefully, and ready to give it another go, perhaps. Thank you very much. Okay, now's time for the partnering group. Look, Tristan, I'll let you go first because I've been talking all afternoon. And did you want to tell us about Business Station and digital solutions and what the wonderful things you do and offer?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a little bit jet lagged, so my mind might not be working as quickly as I would typically be kind of operating, but happy to obviously share with you as much as I can, that being the case. So I'll just share my screen with you so you can see a little bit about what we're up to. So can everyone see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So here's just a quick overview of Business Station and digital solutions. And so I've kind of created this separate stream. So under the banner of digital solutions, and I call it the startup and innovation stream, which kind of captures the strategy side of actually, making digital solutions work in the real world in the context of business. So just to give you an overview about who we are, So we're a not-for-profit organisation delivering the Commonwealth's Digital Solutions Program. We also deliver some other programs, including Entrepreneur Facilitator Program up in the Northern Territory. And within our network, we've got about 80 to 100 digital solutions advisors. And we've just been extended until March 2023 in terms of our service delivery. Yeah, so, I mean, you might find that my knowledge or experience might be beneficial to your business, but still get in touch if you think maybe someone in our network would be able to help you with whatever challenges that you currently are experiencing with your business. But I'll just give you an overview of the kind of things that we can assist you with. So just to give you an understanding about what Digital Solutions is, so it's a federally funded program to provide low-cost, high-quality advisory services to small businesses. So that's kind of like the core focus is small businesses. But under the umbrella of small businesses, you've also got your startups and your scale-ups. So you've sort of heard today a little bit from two of my clients, Andrew and Simon, about their early journeys, and obviously they're in the process of scaling up, which is a really exciting part of the process. So through Digital Solutions, which is a kind of like the federally funded program, you've got access to 7 hours of small business advisory service in the form of one-on-one sessions and also group sessions. So you get 3 hours, one-on-one with an advisor, plus I also create a whole variety of different workshops and webinars that tackle different challenges that startups inevitably experience along their journey, along their early kind of formation journey and also their early stage growth journey. And yeah, we've got a highly qualified network of advisors to help deliver various components of that service. And each of us have got our own domain expertise as well. So the bread and butter of Digital Solutions, just to provide you some context, is getting the websites done and the selling online, social media, digital marketing, small business tools, and then security and data privacy. So the actual core focus of Digital Solutions is more kind of technical and operational. However, there is a component of it that it really does focus on the strategy side of things, which is kind of important because it's important to understand why you're doing what you're doing before you then go and do it. So it's important for us to have those kind of preliminary conversations with people before we start to get really granular and explain to them the technicalities of undergoing a particular digital transformation, for example. So it's a service that can help you accelerate your understanding about how to achieve progress in any one of these 4 areas. There are also some more, but these are the really core focuses. So it used to be called the Australian Small Business Advisory Service, or ASBAS. Now it's called Digital Solutions because the government wants to promote this idea that digital transformation is super important as a way of small businesses and startups remaining competitive in a globally competitive market. And yes, if you're a startup, if you've got a pulse, then you can join the program. So you don't necessarily need to be turning over $500,000 revenue or anything like that. So another good feature about the program is that there's no application process. You can just self-register. I'll give you the details for that. And it's not competitive. So if you haven't got to the stage that you've got a massive competitive advantage that you can kind of showcase to the government, don't worry, you can still join us and you can start to make progress towards that competitive advantage. So in order to qualify for the support, you just need to have fewer than 20 employees. You need to have an ABN registered in either Western Australia, Queensland, or the Northern Territory. And you need to have an intention of making a profit. So often, as a startup, takes a few years to actually become profitable. And we actually ran a program for a while that where we were offering support to other not-for-profits, but I'm not sure whether that's going to continue into the future, because the program is, we're entering a new phase of the program now. But if you want to register for the program in general, that's the link just there. So in terms of the startup stream, I just thought I'd introduce you to some of the advisors that we've got who are operating and adding value to more innovative startups, so not your fish and chip stores. So there's myself. I kind of drift between Western Australia, Queensland. Haven't been to the Northern Territory, but I've got a few clients from up that way. We've got Sharon Honeybell down in the Gold Coast. Jared Townsend, which I think maybe Simon came into contact with in the early days, who definitely helps with innovative businesses as well. Ronwin and Haley are also kind of operating to help small businesses, innovative small businesses and startups. So that's the who. A little bit more about myself. So how I help startups. Often I will, it really depends on what they need, right? So I always cater and kind of personalize the service provision to their specific challenges and also pain points at a given time. Some of the things that I kind of help focus them on is understanding how to optimize their given business model, other strategic challenges, and also kind of challenging them and the way that they think and helping build their entrepreneurial capabilities. I sometimes help them introduce new digital tools as well, particularly visual strategy tools like business model canvases, value proposition canvases, business portfolio maps, and there's a variety of others kind of tools that really help us discuss strategic decision making and strategic planning in a visual way, which makes things a lot easier. So just to give you an overview about how I kind of engage with people, so what my model is, so you can learn a little bit more at my personal website. So typically, my clients tend to be people like, Andrew and Simon. So both of these guys have nice wide brim hats. So that's another requirement. You need to own a wide brim hat. You need to be a real Australian. Can't just have the passport. So small business owners, startups and scale-up business owners, people that are aware of what kind of challenges they currently have, what kind of pains they're kind of in. So it requires a bit of kind of self-awareness, and then maybe takes a look at my profile or gets introduced to me in some other kind of way, and starts to understand a little bit about the kinds of things that I can help small businesses and startups and scale-up owners work on together. So they get an understanding that I can help. Or they might just think, okay, I don't have any current challenges, but I still want to progress my planning and execution and require a sounding board in order to continue the momentum I've been building through my kind of growth journey, and start to have some thought-provoking conversations that will allow that to happen. So those are the two reasons. Either it's just someone that wants a sounding board that's already doing pretty well and just wants to further things, or someone that has a problem that's identifiable. And then the client will book a quick 15 to 30-minute conversation with me, which is fantastic, and we will discover, I'll kind of take a view of whether I think I can help them or not, and if not me, then who, right? So once we've got to that point, we'll make a decision. Okay, I can help, or I can't help, or I can help to this extent or that extent or whatever extent. And so, so some people progress, most people do, if they've kind of reached out proactively, and then they register themselves for digital solutions, which helps kind of pay pretty much all of the fee. There's just a small commitment fee that is required to be paid from the client standpoint. The rest is taken care of by the federal government. and the client starts to, or the participant starts to provide pitch decks, business model canvases, visual strategy tools, anything that they got that they want to be reviewed, or anything that I request from them for me to properly understand what they're doing, where they're up to, all that kind of thing. And so I take a quick look at that. And then we go through a session of up to 3 one-on-one sessions together. And again, it's pretty much almost like 96% subsidized, so it's really cost effective. And then the next stage is almost like a series of problem solving sprints that we work together on. So it's very collaborative kind of interaction. So client will receive 3 hours of my time, potentially some unconventional insights and observations, just because, I mean, diversity is key when it comes to continuing that process of innovation. Get some SMART goals as well, so we'll actually frame the engagement and set some goals, interim goals that will help us progress our venture incrementally. Digital action plan, which is where I provide a little bit more insight and detail in terms of the kind of things that we've discussed during the session. Structured some homework that help us achieve our SMART goals, and provide a crap load of resources, just in the same way that Ramona did. So you could potentially think about me as like Ramona, but potentially able to serve a higher volume of clients, and potentially ones at an earlier stage, and then potentially Ramona would be a good person to kind of follow up once you're starting to turn over millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. So yeah, early stage Ramona, that's what I can be known as. So the potential output of our conversations, so yeah, every project I come into contact with is a little bit different, but here are some of the ways that, kind of some of the outcomes that clients are receiving as a result of our collaboration. And so sometimes, you know, I might just offhandedly discover for them a new source of qualified leads. So, you know, we'll have a conversation and I might just say, have you checked this portal, or have you checked that, or have you gone to this platform, or have you talked to that person or this association? And that'll actually trigger them to go, huh, why haven't I done that? Sometimes it's about business models, so I take a look at their business model canvas and realize, okay, you know, mark it up and actually help them make structural improvements to the core of their business. It could be that they submit to me their go-to-market strategy or market entry strategy, take a look at that and review it in real time and provide commentary on my perception of what they're doing. Sometimes I come across alternative ways of financing or monetizing the technology. Sometimes I, you know, identify really useful key partners that they may not have tapped into. Sometimes they're trying to connect into the wrong part of the supply chain, and I can help maybe weave them into a more suitable place within that supply chain. And hopefully, one of the big benefits is to vastly improve their strategic decision making and planning. So all of these things are possible. It just depends on what you come to me for, right? So it's very, yeah, that just gives you a kind of an inkling about how I'm actually adding value to a lot of these projects. So yeah, if you want to join, you know, Andrew and Simon and Barbara's on the call as well, and I think we've got Carlos, if he's still here, from Western Australia, and you know, book a session with me for a discovery call to see if I can assist you in some way, then yeah, feel free to do that. And yeah, here are my contact details, and you can follow up with me at your leisure when you require me. So thanks very much, and I'm very glad that you hopefully enjoyed and got value from the Expressway session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tristan. We've got a question from the floor for you.
All right, cool, go for it.
Hello, Tristan, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Tristan, I have a question for Simon and Andrew as well, but my question to you, a higher volume piqued my thoughts when you mentioned that. And first and foremost, why are you conducting the information session here rather than at the precinct in Fortitude Valley, where perhaps you can increase your profile with startups and even publicise your information session here through their channels?
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we do run it at the precinct. One of the reasons I think Suburban Business Hub is a good choice is that when we run it at Suburban Business Hub, the technology is easier to get our hands around. So, you know, our AV and IT people, you know, the product is higher quality from that perspective. So that's really what's driven that decision. But I do understand the benefits of using the precinct and having them promoted as well. But this is, yeah, sometimes we collaborate with Queensland government in that regard anyway. So yeah, but yeah, thanks for that question. And that's really the answer. It's a technology driven decision actually.
The question for Simon and Andrew, I have a hardware product, electrical, and this is our first foray into the all things safety industry. It'll obviously require manufacturing. We're just looking at compliance at the moment, and had positive feedback come back from Light Lab International, which is a division of NATA, which I think you'd probably know, National Something Testing Authority. And on your entrepreneurial pathway, you had to pull a lot of things together. What was it where you finally, or where was it when you finally thought you were across the line? You know, that you'd brought it together somehow. What was that success moment?
Simon, do you want to go first?
Sure. So mine was, because we'd obviously done in-house testing initially, but when we spoke to our first client, who was the snake oil person or company that suggested we might be snake oil, but they gave us a go. And I knew that they were going out to go and start dosing on one particular day, and they rang me the next day, and I saw the phone call come through, and I thought, I don't know if this will be good news or bad news, but they said, Simon, it's changed colour. The whole pond has changed colour. And I said, well, from what to what? And they said, well, from green to brown. I said, that's okay then, because the blue-green algae is generally green and diatoms are brown. So they've really kicked in and changed a proportion of the diatom or the algae population, and the diatoms are getting going. So, you know, that's good. And then 8 weeks later, they rang me again and said, you should just come out to site because this is amazing. It looks so good. And then I've recounted it, the 12 weeks where they actually rang up and said, we've got birds here for the first time in 5 years. So ours was kind of that 24 hours after starting, we knew we'd made somebody happy. So that was good, and we've had many of those sorts of calls and stories since then.
Very good. So my response is it was actually our second customer. So we had water monitors out there. Now, when we thought about our water monitors, we thought of wires and batteries and connections, and we saw it from a very technical point of view. But it was our second customer that actually had an issue, and he was on the coast, he was in Brisbane, and he had a live-on manager, and he was actually able to resolve a problem because he had better problem management skills than his live-on manager. But he actually, once he resolved his problem remotely through his live-on manager, it was just his feedback and his perception of our product that changed our perception of our product. Because initially we were, seeing it very much as wires and connections and something technical, and he saw it as something of value. And hearing him express that was a mental milestone for certainly myself, that we had done something of value.
So funding what you did, how did you go about putting that into place? Where did you seek your funds from?
In terms of our development costs, what we did is I utilised my network of developers. So some of these people worked for me before in other guises, in other times, and so basically these people, a lot of them just came along with the dream. Like, they bought into our dream. They wanted to be part of what we were doing, and so that was, rather than us sort of going and probably paying full market rates or consulting rates for developing solutions. So I think that was one. I think that was one big factor of ourselves, but I think the general answer is we've got a good network of people. We've got a good network of great people, and I think a lot of those people bought into our dream.
So was that by selling equity in the company?
We do generally no. We have two directors that have come on because of their technical experience and skills, but most of the people, but generally the people that contribute to the company and contribute to the development and support of the solution they don't have equity in the company.
Earlier in your presentation, you mentioned by error inflection points, which were inflection points, obviously. But if I can play on the word infection, what would you both avoid if you had to do this all over again? What were the faux pas that you encountered that if you had have known, you wouldn't have gone there?
So from our perspective, if we were to do this all again, we would go harder and stronger early, and we would be more definitive in our thinking. If you think back to our timeline, it was the left-hand side of our timeline where we were tentative. We were tentative in our approach. If we did the whole thing again, we would go strong earlier.
And Simon?
Probably relying on or listening to certain people who, in that marketing space. And as I mentioned about the marketers, we did the Mentors for Growth program, which is run by, I think it's state government. But you go and you present your product and sit in your business and tell them what you do, and all of them basically said, oh, you need to be on social, you need to do this, you need to do that. And we bought into that thinking, this is obviously clearly something that we're missing, without reflecting on where they were coming from. And they were coming to that position because basically that's what all of them did. Whereas later, after we'd had an initial bad experience, I have a friend who was in Silicon Valley in the social media space, and because he came back to Brisbane and I introduced him to a couple of people who turned out to be good clients for him, and he said, you've done me great service and favours, so let me take a deep dive on your company and where social sits with you. And he came back and said, it's just not worth it. Nobody is, as I said, nobody's searching how do I fix my wastewater treatment plant on Facebook or Twitter. So from a garden pond and recreational pond point of view, it might be of use to us, but it's not particularly where our business is going. So that's just kind of running and ticking, running itself quite nicely. But not sitting back when you give them some advice and going, do they actually know more than I do? And then trusting in what we know versus what they know. And that was a few $1,000s worth of error in the lesson. And not trusting ourselves enough.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. We're very conscious of time. We are well and truly running out of time. So I'll just close by giving you a very quick overview of the services that TAFE Queensland can offer you and your company and your employees in particular. So what we do, we essentially partner you with a very experienced mentor on your business journey. And along that journey, we will review your business with you, make adjustment, new strategies, new developments, and identify opportunities that perhaps you're not taking advantage of, and get away from some that perhaps you shouldn't be going anywhere near to. So we have that journey, and that we assign you with a mentor for a period of up to 16 weeks. So it's a considerable amount of time. You get to know the person very well, and that's why I use the word partner. That person will get involved with your business in all aspects, to making sure that the fundamentals of your business are correct. Your ratios, your cash, your balance sheet, and your market, your customer profile, your product, the alignment of your product and your market and your customer. And while you're doing that, you also understanding the opportunities that perhaps you should be considering, because you are getting a different perspective on the fundamentals of your business, and that always opens your mind up to saying, aha, now I see this, perhaps I can do that. And this is where the mentor will challenge you and work with you for that period of time. It's a really excellent product. I would say that, but it is, because we had 98% to 100% satisfaction from people who've done the program in terms of profit, improvement, employee satisfaction, personal well-being. We also do a lot of work with you guys on understanding your person, your mindset, and understanding as to whether or not you are the Richard Branson type of entrepreneur who says that if he has the bank $100 million, he hasn't got a problem, the bank's got a problem, and or you're a more cautious type of individual. So you need to understand yourself, understand your business, and understand how you're going to drive this forward. So we'll work with you for quite a considerable period of time, and at the end of that, you will have an absolute beautiful strategic plan for your business. And on top of that, in TAFE, you get a qualification as well. So it's really, really great program, and all that, of course, is heavily, heavily subsidised by the government, makes it extremely affordable. What I would also recommend that you think about, those of you who've got staff, is to consider putting your staff on that program, because small businesses are always saying that they're time poor, they can't afford to take time off, they're scared to take time off because they're scared that people in the business will not be able to keep things going while they're away. Well, this program will help that. It will make the individual who sits through that program absolutely understand business, understand the purpose of that business, understand the direction of that business, and run the business while you're not there. So I would highly recommend employees can also get subsidised heavily to do this program. So thank you. If you wish to know any more information, I'll be here for a little while yet. And certainly Ramona, who is one of our highly esteemed mentors, will also be able to give you that information as well. Thank you. Cheers.